Hi friends, it's Ashley and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my best books of the year, my 10 favorite books of 2025. So last year in 2025, I read 74 books and so many of them were amazing. And so it was very hard to make this list. And actually my number 10 spot is a tie, so I actually have 2 books at number 10, and then I also have 5 honorable mentions, so I'm going to start with those and then we'll go into my top 10. So the first honorable mention that I have is 11 Houses by Colleen Oates, and this is a YA fantasy book that has some horror elements as well. And I read this back in July and I still think about it. It's a perfect creepy summer book. It takes place on an island, and every 10 years or so on this island there is this big storm, which along with rain and wind, also the dead rise from the sea. And it's the job of the 11 families, the 11 houses that live on this island, to stop the dead from reaching the bridge that leads from the island to the mainland. So essentially this island is a bridge between the land of the living and the dead. And our story is dual perspectives. So the first character we follow is our main female character who comes from one of these 11 houses. And the second perspective that we follow is a boy who moves to the island at the beginning of the book, which is almost unheard of on this island because usually no one new comes to the island unless you marry into one of the families. But this boy is actually a member of one of the houses. His mother grew up on the island and then she left the island, but she has passed away, and so now he's come here to live with his uncle. And so our story follows the two of them as they and the island are preparing for the next big storm that's coming. And there's been hints that this storm is going to be unlike any other storm. And also it seems like the older people on the island are hiding a secret as well. And so the two of them are trying to unravel all of that while also starting to fall in love. And what I loved about this book was the balance of romance and horror fantasy. And for me, those two things are perfectly balanced because there were plenty of creepy moments going on in this book, but also the romance moments between our two main characters gave the book a lot of cuteness as well, which was perfect for me because I don't like books that are overly dark or have too much horror going on. And this one is a standalone, so everything does wrap up nicely in the end. And the second honorable mention is Must Love Moss and Moonshine by Maisie McGill. So this is a cozy fantasy romance, and this is a book that is a part of the series of interconnected standalones, so you can read each book on its own, and this is a prequel to the first book in the series. And this one is about one lonely dryad in denial, one sylvan elf with amnesia, and one sentient forest that absolutely ships them. So this one we have dual perspectives, so we're following the dryad and the elf. And this one was just so cute and cozy and heartwarming. I really loved this author's writing style. It just felt so warm-hearted. And I have a feeling that this author could become one of my favorite cozy fantasy authors. So I'm excited to read more of her books in this series this year in 2026. The romance in this one was absolutely adorable with just a tiny bit of spice. And there is magical creatures in this book. And in particular, there is a magical squirrel named Marble, who was absolutely adorable, and the type of squirrel that he is, his chirp can freeze someone for like a moment. Honorable mention number 3 is A Pack for Autumn by Amelia Emerson. So this one is a Why Choose and an Omegaverse book, and this is like the first Omegaverse book that I've ever read, and I absolutely love this. It was very spicy, but somehow it also still just felt very cozy. And this is the first book in a series of interconnected standalones called the Cozyverse series. In this one we follow our main female character Olive, who comes to this small town to become the lighthouse keeper, and when she's there she ends up running into these 3 guys, these 3 alphas, who are convinced that she is their mate, and so they start to court her. And so I love the small town vibes in this and the coziness, as I mentioned. And also the fall vibes in this book are also immaculate as well. Honorable mention number 4 goes to The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. So this one is a gothic adult fantasy, the first in a duology, and I have to give a shout out to this one because it probably had my favorite companion of the year, and that is the gargoyle. Like, I loved him so much. He made this book for me. And then my fifth and final honorable mention is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. So I just had a lot of fun with this book like I did with the other two, and I just really love this series and the world and the characters and the dragons. And also, of course, there was also like heartbreaking moments in here as well, and the way I ended, I need the next one in the series like right away. Okay, so now on to my top 10. I'm going to talk about these starting with number 10 and making it up to number 1. So number 10, like I mentioned earlier, is a tie, and I tried to choose between these two books, but I couldn't. And they're also both very different genres, so that made my life even more difficult. So I decided they're just both going to be at number 10. And so the first one is Brimstone by Callie Hart. So this is the second book in a series. It's a sequel to Quicksilver, and I just loved this just as much as the first one. I had a lot of fun with this. I loved that we got to see more of the world and we got more of the characters. There were so many character moments in here, and I loved all of them. And I also have now an unexpected new favorite character, which is Folly. And also, I absolutely loved all the Onyx moments in this book. Onyx is so precious, and the Carrie moments were also awesome in here. And I also love that in this one, we get chapter perspectives from Kingfisher's point of view, which we only got Ceres's in Quicksilver. So I really like that addition in the second book. And then also tied at spot number 10 is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. So this is an adult cozy fantasy. And in here, we're following our main female character, Sarah. And she used to be the most powerful witch in all of England. That was until she resurrected her great aunt Jasmine. And in the process, she lost most of her magic. And also, she was exiled from the magical community because resurrection is forbidden. And so now she spends her days helping her aunt run her bed and breakfast. But then someone reappears from her past, an icy magical historian named Luke. And with his arrival also comes the hope of her possibly restoring her magic. And so this one was super cozy and heartwarming. I love the found family vibes in this one. Another thing I loved about this book was the writing style. Sangu Mandana's writing style is very warm-hearted and lyrical, and I just loved it. And there is also a talking fox in this one as well. Book number 9 is Grave Flowers by Autumn Cross. So this is a YA gothic fantasy, and it's the first book in a duology. And this one is about Princess Madalena, who she has a twin sister, but at the beginning of the book, her twin sister is killed, and this is a problem because her twin sister was betrothed to a prince from another kingdom, and so Madalena ends up taking her sister's place. And she also learns that not only was her sister to marry this prince, but she was also supposed to kill him. And so now she must kill him while also trying to free her sister's soul from purgatory. So this was a fun and spooky book. One of my favorite parts of the book was the world building and the concept of the grave flowers. So the grave flowers are unique to Madalena's kingdom, and throughout the book you get to learn about them. And I just found learning about them so fascinating. And one of the types of grave flowers can actually turn into dragons, which I thought was really cool. And also this book was very twisty and turny, and so that kept me on my toes with trying to figure out what was happening. And kind of going off the same vein, so in this book we get chapter perspectives only from Madalena's point of view, and so we don't get the love interest's point of view, and so we don't really get to know what's going on inside his head. And that made him like very mysterious. And so throughout the entirety of the book, as I was reading, I was kind of wondering, like, is he actually showing his true self or is he pretending? Because Madalena herself is trying to figure out if he knows that she has been sent there to kill him or not. And so that really added to the mystery and the intrigue of the book. Book number 8 is For No Mortal Creature by Keith Chow. So this one is also a gothic YA fantasy, and it's a standalone. So in this one we follow Jia, who at the beginning of the book is killed by her enemy and ends up coming back to life, and so she learns that she has resurrection powers, and along with those powers comes the ability to see ghosts, including the ghost of the boy she used to love that betrayed her. And so at first she wants nothing to do with her powers and the ghosts, but then her grandmother ends up suspiciously dying. And so she becomes determined to figure out the truth of what happened to her grandmother, and she will use any means to figure this out, including her new powers. And she also ends up needing the help of our two love interests in this book, the boy who broke her heart and an enemy prince. And so this one was just a lot of fun, and I especially loved the romance, the love triangle that's going on in this one. And one of the love interests is that angsty romance, and the other love interest is the sweet romance. I feel like with the two of them, you just get the best of both worlds. And another part of this book that I thought was very interesting and unique was the world building and how the afterlife is depicted. And overall, this one had a really good balance of action, adventure, and romance. Book number 7 is Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambao. So I feel like this is one that was like everywhere last winter. And so I ended up picking it up. And this one did not disappoint. This is a standalone cozy fantasy, and it is just so whimsical and magical, and definitely gives Studio Ghibli vibes. So this one is about a woman who inherits a pawn shop where you can sell your regrets, and then embarks on a magical journey when a charming young physicist wanders into the shop. And definitely my favorite thing about this was the world building. It's just so unique and unlike like anything else I've read before. It's just so cozy and charming. For example, there's traveling through rain puddles, rides on paper cranes, and a night market in the sky. And the romance in here was also very sweet. Book number 6 is Warrior Princess Assassin by Bridget Camille. And this is an adult fantasy romance, and it's the first book in a trilogy. And this was just so much fun. This is action-packed, fast-paced. If you were looking for like a book to get out of a reading slump, I would definitely recommend this. And this one is very character-focused. And in here we follow 3 different characters. So we have a character who is a princess, a character who is a warrior, and a character who is an assassin. And our princess and our warrior are in an arranged marriage in order to benefit both their kingdoms. And then the assassin is the princess's childhood friend, and the assassin ends up receiving orders to kill the princess and the warrior king. And of course, he refuses to kill the princess because she's his childhood friend, and also he's in love with her. And she refuses to let him kill the warrior king. And so our story goes from there, and it's just so much fun, filled of action, adventure, and romance. And this one does get a little bit steamy at the end. Book number 5 is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett. So this is the 3rd and final book in the Emily Wilde series, and I thought this book was the perfect ending to the series. It really felt like it brought things full circle, and I just love this world and these characters so much. I love Emily, I love Wendell, I love the relationship and seeing how it progressed over the 3 books. I absolutely loved their animal companions, Emily's dog Shadow and Wendell's cat Orga. Book number 4 is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. So this was actually the last book that I read in 2025. This is an adult cozy fantasy and is part of the same world as The Spell Shop, but is very much a standalone, and you definitely don't have to read The Spell Shop to read this one. Although there are some fun Easter eggs in this one if you have read The Spell Shop. And so in this one we're following Terlu, who was a librarian at the Great Library in this world, but she broke the laws and practiced magic by creating a sentient spider plant. And so as a punishment, she was turned into a wood statue and placed in the library as a warning to others. However, one day the spell ends up breaking and she wakes up alone in a snowy forest. And she ends up finding her way to a greenhouse, and she ends up meeting the only other person on this island who is the caretaker of the greenhouses. And he tells her that the magic in the greenhouses is failing, and so the greenhouses are slowly dying. And so she decides that she is going to figure out how to save the greenhouses. And the cozy and warm-hearted vibes of this book were absolutely immaculate. And this is 100% a warm hug in book form. And this is definitely one of those books where if you're feeling tired or worn out, then this book will definitely comfort you and make you feel like you're wrapped up in a warm blanket. And in this book, we have winged cats, sentient plants, and a love interest who loves to bake and cook. And so there is a lot of mention of baked goods and food in here, and this book just made me so hungry reading it. In particular, the love interest is always baking these honey cakes. And so reading this book made me want to bake my own honey cakes. And I absolutely loved Sarah Beth Durst's writing style in here. Her writing style is just so cozy and warm-hearted feeling, and it really adds to the overall cozy atmosphere of the book. Alright, so now we're on to the top 3. And when I was making this list, these 3 books were set in stone right from the very beginning of me starting to make this list. And so these 3 are without a doubt my top 3 books of the year. And so at number 3, we have The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Amelie Wen Zhao. So this is the first book in a YA fantasy duology, and this one is about our main female character, An Ying, going to enter into these immortality trials in order to win a cure for her mother who is ill. And along the way, she meets 2 boys who are love interests. And one of my favorite things about this book was the romance. There is a love triangle going on, and one of our love interests is the angsty type, and then the other love interest is more the pure, innocent, sweet type, and I absolutely loved both of them as characters. And also, don't ask me who I want her to end up with, because I really like both the love interests at the moment, so I still don't know who I want her to end up with. Which, to me, I feel like the best love triangles are the ones where there's no clear winner and where you like both the love interests and can't choose between them. And in addition to the romance in here, there's also a strong sense of found family. And An Ying ends up becoming friends with this other group of outcasts that are taking part in the trials. And just seeing their friendship was so heartwarming. And in addition to the romance and friendships in here, this one also had plenty of action as well. And there were some really cool fight scenes in here. So book number 2 is The Notorious Virtues by Alwyn Hamilton. This book was probably my biggest surprise of the year. This blew me away, and going into this, I didn't have many expectations. So this is the first book in a YA fantasy series. It has multiple perspectives, and there's so much going on in this book. To give you an idea, just a slight overview of what it's about, I'm gonna read the little Amazon description. So it is about 2 young women who compete in a magical contest for family inheritance while uncovering murder and betrayal. One seeks truth about her mother's death, the other searches for her father's identity. And so those are 2 of the 4 characters that we follow in this book. And the other 2 perspectives are our love interests. One of them is a reporter who's helping one of our main female characters figure out the truth about what happened to her mother. And the other is a knight whose family has served the family of the main female characters in this book for generations and is magically bound to obey the head of the family. And I found all of their perspectives and characters to all be really fascinating, and I never once felt bored when reading any of their perspectives. Because I know sometimes when there's multi-perspectives, sometimes you might not like a character as much as a certain other character, and so you might want to get back to that other character's perspective, but I never felt that way in this book at all. And so there are trials in this book, but they feel very different and unique from trials in other books. One of the things about these trials is that they are preceded over by a magical being who lives in the forest, and you don't go to the trials go to you. And so you never know when the trials are going to happen. And so you could just be going about your everyday life, and then all of a sudden you are in a trial. And so that element of the trials really added to like the mystery and suspense of the book. And then another fascinating thing about this book is the setting. In some ways it feels very fairy tale like, but it also feels modern too at the same time. So it's like a blending of the 2, and it makes it feel very unique. Alright, now time for book number 1, my favorite book of 2025, and that is The Floating World by Axio. So this is the first book in a YA fantasy duology, and this one we have dual perspectives, and we are following our 2 main characters, Sunho and Ren. And Ren is part of a traveling acrobat family, but one day her uncle becomes poisoned by a demon, and so she sets off on a journey to find a cure for him. And along the way, she ends up running into Sunho, and Sunho is a mercenary. And he is actually looking for a girl who wields silver light. Little does he know that Ren is the girl that he is looking for. And I just loved this book so much. I loved everything about it. I loved how warm-hearted it was. I loved the Final Fantasy VII vibes. loved Suno and Ren as characters, and I loved seeing their relationship progress. It just felt so natural the way they started off kind of as strangers and then became friends, and then over the course of the book they realized they've fallen in love with each other. And this one does end on a kind of evil cliffhanger, but the second book is already out, so you could go read the complete duology right now. Alright, so those are my 10 favorite books of 2025, plus some honorable mentions. Let me know down below what your favorite books of 2025 were. Do we have any in common? I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye!